Hey, mommy. Hey, mommy. Hey, mommy, are we almost there yet? Are we almost there yet, mommy? Mommy, I got the bookie in my nose. Mommy, I'm hungry. Never mind. Mommy, 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 mommy. Oh, mommy, I gotta go boo boo bad. Mommy, I know, mommy, I can't hold it. I can't hold it. Oh, mommy, I did it again, mommy. I did it again. I did it all by myself, mommy, just the way you showed me. Mommy, I'm bored. Mommy, I'm bored. Mommy, I'm bored. Hey, mommy, I'm bored. Hey, mommy, I'm bored. Mommy is my favorite. Oh, Mommy, my toy broke. Mommy, my toy. Oh, goody, mommy, I found this on the floor. I found this on the floor. Mommy, I like it. Mommy got Cheerios stuck to my candy. Mommy, wanna lick? Mommy, that toy broke too, mommy. That toy broke too. I dropped my pacifier, mommy.
Every time I watch it, I forget what I'm supposed to say. You, you watch that 10 times straight, he be on your nerves too. It was part of that looked really real, man. I got to talk to Larry's mom later on today to find out if there's any truth to that. Well, good morning to all of you. Good morning to you if you're watching us online today. Since it's not already obvious, we're in the middle of a series called Getting On My Nerves. And the reason why this series is so important to each and every single one of us is because each and every single one of us has someone in our worlds that at times gets on our nerves, right? We all have a person that, and if we don't have a person that currently gets on our nerves, we have someone that we're counseling who's dealing with someone else who's getting on their nerves. And so we all can benefit from this thing. Now, the key thing that we have to understand when it comes to someone who's getting on our nerves is that no matter how hard we try, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, there's nothing we can do to control that person's behavior, right? We don't have any control over the people that we deal with from day to day. We don't have any control over what they do and what they don't do. We don't have any control over their abilities. However, we do have control over what we do. And that's why it's so important that when it comes down to it, when it comes to dealing with someone who gets on our nerves, it all boils down to our response to them, right? And you and I typically want to respond to that person in a way that God will be most pleased with, and in a way that it will begin to eliminate some of our own frustration. And so now the problem is that since we can't control them, we're kind of like, it almost feels like our hands are tied in some senses because we can't change them. And so in our minds, we think, if I can just change them, if I can just fix them, then everything will be better. And so now we're left with dealing with the things that we can handle. Now, here's the good news, is that there is a great method. There is a key to dealing with irritating, frustrating, annoying people who are getting on our nerves. There is a key to dealing with them. But let me just warn you that this key or this thing that we must do if we're going to deal with people that gets on our nerves goes totally against what is our natural tendency. It goes totally against the way that you and I typically operate. In fact, you and I operate, and we live in a society that operates in what I call selective understanding. Selective understanding. That is that we put energy, we put time, we put our focus into understanding the things that does not interfere with what we want, what we need, where we're going, what we're thinking. We typically only understand the things that does not interfere with our own prerogative. Is that right? I'm going to go, all right, so y'all going, okay. So if you think about it, when it comes down to it, let me put it in another way. When we have to deal with someone or we have to deal with something, if that person shows any sign that they may go against our idea, our method, our way of doing things, or what we want to happen, we can't understand anything they're saying, right? Typically when we understand a person, we say things like, I got you, I understand, we're cool, we're on the same page. But if you talk to someone who seems to be going against your prerogative, you say things like, nah, I don't understand, we're not on the same page, I don't understand anything that's coming out of your mouth, are you even speaking English right now? Okay, so let's take for example, you're at Red Lobster, okay? You done gone out, it's your birthday, right? And you always wanted to go to Red Lobster for your birthday. All right, well, all right, I won't talk about myself. So you're at Red Lobster, okay, and it's a graduation, it's a family event, it's a function. And so you figure since it's to honor you, you're going to splurge. So you look at the menu and you say, you know what? I'm just going to do it up today. I'm going to cheat on the diet. I want a lobster tail. This is what I want on my Red Lobster. I want a lobster tail. So you tell the waiter or the waitress or whoever it is that comes to take your order that you want the Admiral's feast, right? Isn't that what it's called? Okay. So you tell whoever it is there that's what you want. And so, they tell you, they say, okay, that's fine. We got all the sides, but I just want to warn you, we are out of lobster. So you got to process it all, right? And you say, we say, hold on, what do you mean you're out of lobster? You mean you just don't have no lobster ready right now? You mean, you got to kill it first and then cook it? What do you mean you're out of lobster? And they tell you, I'm sorry, ma'am, it's been a busy day for us, but we're completely out of lobster. We don't have any lobster in the restaurant at all. And you say, okay, wait a minute, I'm not understanding you right now. Okay, so you mean to tell me I'm at Red Lobster and you don't have any lobster in here? You ain't got lobster tail, a lobster claw, artificial lobster meat. You ain't got none of that. And so they say, I'm sorry, man, we don't have anything, but we have plenty of fish and other aquatic animals and stuff like that. We got lots of that stuff, but we don't have any lobster. And so you're about to lose it because you're at Red Lobster and you decided when you got there that you wanted lobster and they don't have it right now. So you said, well, I need to talk to your supervisor. Who is your supervisor? And they said, well, they're busy right there. They're not here. They said, well, who is the manager on duty? Let me talk to them. Right? And then, they say, well, they're not here right now or whatever. And you say, well, who's the owner? And you on the phone, you writing the owner while you in the restaurant because you upset that you ain't got no lobster. Now, you just can't understand, you can't comprehend that any of the 300 greedy people that came in before you wanted lobster too because right now you want lobster. And that's all that matters, right? And so, we don't understand. Okay, so maybe that's not you. Maybe, you go to the store, right, and you need to return something. But in the midst of everything that you was doing, you done lost the receipt, right? You know what that's like. So you go to the counter and you got whatever it is you need to return. And, you're trying to explain to them and say, hey, I need to return this, but I don't have a receipt. And they say, well, okay, well, ma'am, we can return it, but we can't give you money back for it. We got to give you store credit, right? Or you can exchange it. And so you say to them, okay, okay, I can understand it. That's fine. So they ring it up, but now it's on sale. So you done paid $40 for it, but they only want to give you $10, right? Y'all don't fake like y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all done been there before. And so now you upset because you're like, nah, I paid $40 for this. You can't just give me $10. I paid $40. And they say, well, ma'am, I'm sorry, but since you don't have a receipt, I don't have no way of knowing how much you paid for it. So you say, well, yeah, you do. You know how much I paid for it because I just told you how much I paid for it. I paid $40. And they say, well, ma'am, I'm sorry. I have to give you what it's ringing up for now. If you check the policy, number 5 on the sign that's hanging behind me, it says that, you got to have a receipt and all this other stuff. And so we going off. We can't understand that they got to follow the policy and the procedure, what it is that we have to do, because guess what? It goes against what we want. It goes against what we need to happen. And so, we ask for the manager, and then we blow up, and we write the company and do all this stuff. All right, so maybe that's not you. Maybe you work with somebody, or you someone in your household, and you tell them it's something that you need them to do. And so you tell your children, or your spouse, or friend, whoever it is, I need you to go do whatever it may be. And they say, okay, I'm going to do it, but I don't feel like doing it right now. And you say, oh, well, hold on. What do you mean you don't feel like doing it right now? They say, well, I'm tired. I had a long day. I'm going to get to it, and I'll get to it later on tonight, tomorrow. And they say, hold on. I'm not understanding you. This is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. This is your duty. And I told you I need it now. And so at that moment, we can't understand, anything that they're trying to explain to us. Why? Because it goes against what we want. It goes against what we need. It goes against our prerogative. Now, let me tell you the danger in this, right? Especially when it comes to people that we don't take the time to understand, and we use this selective understanding thing. When it comes to the people that get on our nerves. Here's the thing. Is that typically when we don't take the time to understand someone who's getting on our nerves, or who's irritating us, or frustrating us, or annoying us, and when we don't take the time to understand them, we begin to respond in ways that may not be most appropriate for the moment. You think about it. We tend to respond in ways that may not be most appropriate at the moment, because at that time we're getting in our feelings, right? We're upset, we're frustrated, we're irritated, we're annoyed. And so we don't want to have to deal with whatever it is that they're saying to us. And so since we're frustrated, we're irritated, we're annoyed, we choose not to understand what they may be going through. And in our minds, if I understand them, then I'll be admitting that they're right and I'm wrong, right? If I say I understand you, then that means that you've won in our minds. If I take the time to understand you, it means that what you're doing is excusable, right? And so in our minds, we think that if I'm going to try to understand you, it's like me admitting to guilt. It's like me giving in. But see, when we take the time to understand someone, it's not admitting the guilt. It's not saying that they're right. It's not saying that what they've done is excusable. It just gives us the capacity to empathize with them. That's it. It gives us the capacity to say, you know what? Hey, I've been tired before too. You know what? Hey, I know what it feels like to have to follow policies and procedures. Hey, I know that you didn't eat all the lobster. There was other people that ate it, right? Now we have the capacity to understand them, and when we have the capacity to empathize and understand them, guess what? We respond to them differently. Before I started working at Zion, there was a short period of time that I worked for Prince George's County public school system. I was a middle school teacher and a technology coordinator for the county. In fact, are there any middle school teachers here today? Yeah, a few. If you're watching online, you can click and raise your hand so we can see who you are online. A few of you. Man, we need to give them a hand or an offering or something. Nah, for real. Like, teaching middle school must be like a calling. I did it for a short period of time. In fact, is there any teachers here in general? Any teachers here? Give our teachers a hand. If you're watching online, raise your hand. We want to see who you are too. All right, cool. So, the thing about teachers, and, I love you all to death because I used to be one. But here's the thing. You all work in Get On Your Nerves clinics. I mean, you all just got a special type of calling or something that you got to deal with. So I worked at this school, and it was this one child at the school. It wasn't all the child. It was this one child that made me rethink whether or not I was saved. I mean, I had to reconsider it. I mean, they pushed me to limits that I didn't think I could ever be pushed to. If you're a teacher, you understand what I'm talking about. That child that when you think about them, when you wake up in the morning, you think about calling out, all of a sudden you got, swine flu or something like that. I don't know. You got to call in. The principal asks you why you can't come in. You say, is such and such there today? And they say, oh, no, they didn't come. I'm suddenly feeling better. But I had this one kid at school, and they just did everything. I don't know what was going on. It was something going on. I don't know whether the child was possessed or, I'm being honest. They just, and he would just do random stuff, just be all over the place. He'd come in, go out of the classroom as he pleased. We'd be in the middle of class. He'd get up and walk over and talk to somebody. He'd be in the middle of lunch, and then he'd just get up and walk out. He'd be in the middle of somewhere. He'd just get up and leave. He just had all types of stuff going on, right? He'd be outside taking the flag down off the pole, just wild stuff. And so one day he was in class, and he was, all the teachers was frustrated. He was annoying all the teachers. And so I decided to, have a conversation with him. Well, let me tell you what he did first. He came in class one day. He must have came from, like, gym or something like that. But he had all this mud on his shoes. So when he got in class, he took his shoes off in the middle of class and started scraping the mud off of his shoe. Right? And it's a true story, right? So I'm sitting in the class now, I'm ticked, right? Because I got to clean this mess up, right? Because he wanted to sit in here and clean his shoes. So I take him outside, right? Because I got to have a conversation with him outside the classroom. And I can't have the other kids hearing what I'm going to say to him, because then I might get in trouble. You know how you had some conversations with the kids before. I'm just being real. I'm just trying to be, confession is good for the spirit, right? And so, I take him outside the room and I talk to him and I say some things to him. So I said to him, listen here, man, you got to stop all this, right? And you probably shouldn't talk to a kid, a troubled child like this, but I had to get him straight. And so I said, man, you're getting on my nerves, you're getting on all the other teachers' nerves, right? Everybody just frustrates you, right? I'm going to be real with you. No one likes you right now, okay? Now, I know you're not supposed to say that to him, but I had to be honest with him. And I said, man, you got to stop doing all this stuff. You running around, you writing on walls, you cleaning your shoes, you doing all this stuff in school. You got to stop treating school this way. He said, in fact, this is what I want you to do. I want you to start treating this building, start treating these people like it's your own family and like this is your own house. Maybe y'all knew something I didn't. I thought that was the right thing I had to say. That's what they used to say to me. Treat this like you at home. You don't treat your home like this. You don't put your feet up on the tables at home, do you? That's a word for me. So I told him to do this. And so, he's listening to me. He says, well, Mr. Marshall, let me tell you something. And so I said, no. I said, you don't act like this at home, do you? He said, well, Mr. Marshall, I said, hold on. This is not a question for you to answer. This is a question for you to listen to, right? So forget what your English teacher told you. This is a question you just listen to. And so I'm telling him all this stuff. He said, Mr. Marshall, I had to help you. And so I said, no, I don't want, it's nothing you can say to me right now. Because I'm mad. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. So I said, start treating this building, start treating us like we're your family. So he says, okay, right? And so I go home. Little Dennis the Menace goes home too, right? Next week we come back to school, and it was like something happened over the weekend. He started acting worse. He got to school the next week and is doing all types of stuff, running around the building, throwing stuff, hitting people, And I'll try to see him in the hallway and remind him of our discussion. Just like you're at home, he'd say, he'd give me one of those, right? And so, I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. He's acting worse. And so then, we didn't have the whole disciplinary actions. He's been written up before and all the PS-74 and all that stuff. And, we didn't sat down. He'd been in school, detention and all that stuff. So then he gets to a point in the middle of the week where he does the ultimate, right? He's in the teacher's classroom, and the teacher's doing her lecture or whatever. And he says, man, and he gets up and walks out the room. So the teacher says, hold on, where you going? He says, man, this class is boring. I'm going to watch TV in the library, right? So I'm like, this little boy gangster, right? So we had to suspend him. So to make a long story short, before he could come back to school, we had to have a parent-teacher conference with his mother, okay? So he's living in a single-parent household, so we bring the mom in. And so all the teachers are excited because we ready to tell her how this kid been acting. And so we sitting around the table, and it's me and about 4 of the teachers, and we're all going through our experiences with the little boy. And after all of us finished, we made the little boy look to be like an omen or something, right? It was just, and so it comes to this critical moment in the conversation. The mother hasn't said anything the whole meeting, and all of us sitting on the edge of our seat because it's her time to talk. So we just know that she's going to be right with us, and she's going to go out and spank the kid or string him or do something like that. And we're not going to call social services, nothing like that, because he deserves it, right? I'm just joking. I don't teach no more. I can say this stuff now, right? All right, so, and so she gets to this point, she's getting ready to speak, and this is what she says. She says, and I quote, wow, I can't believe it. Can't believe he's acting like this. I mean, I don't understand it because when he's at home, I let him do whatever he wants to do. So we had to sit there for a second and put it all together. So we said, whatever he wants to do. She said, yeah, I'm not a strict parent. I let him come and go as he please. He can kind of, be on his own. I don't try to hover over him or micromanage him or all that stuff. I trust that he's going to get his homework done. He ain't doing none of his homework, none of that stuff. And so we just said, whatever. He just does whatever. So after that, we just said, well, thank you. It's good talking to you. But at that moment, I understood what the boy was trying to tell me. I knew that he was trying to explain to me that I act like this at home too. And since I didn't take the chance to understand him, because in my mind, I'm assuming that all his bad behavior is coming from school, but it was a lot deeper than that. And because I didn't understand him, I didn't approach the situation in the best way. If I knew he was going to act like that, I would have never told him to act like he's at home. I would have told him to act like he's never going back home or something, But I didn't take the time to understand him. It caused me a lot more frustration. Here's the truth, is that you and I, when we begin to approach people that's getting on our nerves, and we begin to, say, what, they're getting on our nerves, let me handle it the way I think is best, all we do is prolong our own frustration and irritation. Because the key to dealing with someone who's difficult, or the key to dealing with someone who's getting on our nerves, is understanding. In fact, that's the thing I want us to understand. It's the only thing that I want you to know, is that understanding is the key to dealing with someone who's getting on your nerves. Understanding is the key to dealing with someone who's getting on your nerves. At that moment, to tell that little boy to act like he acts when he's at home was foolish. It was stupid. It could have been avoided if I would have took the time to understand him. And I'm not just calling people who don't take the time to understand people who's frustrating them or irritating foolish, but the Bible calls them foolish too. The Bible helps us understand that a person who lacks understanding is a fool. In fact, if you have your Bibles, turn to Proverbs chapter 18. Proverbs 18, the scripture's going to come on the screen for you. So I'm just going to read 2 verses, just 2 quick verses, then I'll let you go. Proverbs 18. All right, this is what the writer of Proverbs says in the first verse. He says, unfriendly people care only about themselves. They lash out at common sense. Let's stop there. He says this, people who really don't care about others, who really is not concerned with anybody else other than themselves, is like a person who argues with someone who is actually making sense. It's like being frustrated and being mad and being so stuck on having things your way and things going the way you want them and doing the things that you want to do and having people respond the way you want them to respond. It's like being so focused on yourself that when common sense falls in your lap, you treat it like it's trash. When someone is making clear sense and making practical sense of something they're telling you, because you're so stuck on me and I and what I want and what I desire, you start fussing with them, calling them crazy when they actually making some sense. You ever seen someone like that? You trying to tell them something, they get all fussy and they fussing at you, and you tell them and you say, look, I'm telling you, the number 2 comes after the number 1. No, it doesn't. I'm trying to tell you. It just... I ain't got to be that simple, but they seem like they're acting simple, right? Because they're only focused on hearing themselves. The writer extends this idea. He says in verse 2, fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions. Fools have no interest in understanding. Because in the mind of a fool, the way they think, the way they act, the way they operate is all they need to know. So they don't try to understand anyone else. The second someone does something, the second someone says something, they don't listen, they don't do anything. All they do is share what they want to say. It's the type of person you have a conversation with and they're not really listening to you, they're just thinking of what they're going to say next, right? Because they don't have any interest in trying to understand you. They only focus on themselves. You could have answered their question and they say, well, this is what I'm saying. This is what I want to know. Like, I just answered that. But because we're only focused on me and I and what I want and what I desire, we're not listening. Stephen Covey, in a book that he writes called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, his 5th habit, he says this. He says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. In the book, he tells this story about how he gets on his subway one time. And when he gets on the subway, he's either going to work or coming home from work. He's on the subway, and everything is peaceful. People are reading magazines, listening to their iPods, reading books. It's a peaceful ride on this particular car on the train. And then this dad with his 2 children get on the train, and the whole environment changes. The dad walks in, and the kids are just going, they off the hook. They come in screaming and yelling, and they're playing, and they running, and they hitting each other back and forth. And so the dad sits down next to Stephen Covey and puts his head back and closes his eyes and just lets out a sigh, while the kids are just running around causing chaos. They're taking the newspaper out of people's hands, knocking people's books out their hands, hanging from the little rails that you're supposed to hold on to. They're doing all types of stuff, doing gymnastics in the aisle and just cutting up, right? And so all the other people in the car are getting frustrated. They're getting irritated. They want something. They want this father to get up and do his job and to change something. So they all looking like, you going to say something? You going to do something? And so Stephen Covey says, you know what, I'm just going to take matters in my own hands. He turns to the dad and says, excuse me, sir, but could you try to get a little bit more control over your children? He said, they're running around, they're causing chaos, they're acting up, they're hitting people, they're pushing people, they're kicking people, and they're acting up. They need to be disciplined. And so the guy opened his eyes and looked at Stephen Covey and said, you know what, you're right. He says, I'm sorry, I'm just out of it. I'm not really here right now. He says, me and the kids just left the hospital, and they just found out that an hour ago their mother had passed. So at that moment, Stephen Covey felt totally different about the situation. You see, before, he viewed himself as the victim, right? I have to go through this. I work, I pay taxes, I pay my bills, I pay my fare. I got to put up with all this nonsense. And so without understanding, he spoke. And when he spoke, he suddenly went from being the victim to the villain. Because now, in that moment, it's like, he's being insensitive, right? It's like at that moment, he's being harsh and cruel. He didn't know what was going on. But he did the same thing that you and I do, and that's make the assumptions that behavior doesn't come from somewhere. Behavior comes from somewhere. Someone's acting the way they're acting because of something that's happening in their lives. You can believe that. Even you think sometimes people just don't know what to say at their mouths, and they're just saying something off the top of their head. But even the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And whenever we put ourselves in a position where we don't understand someone who's annoying us or someone who's frustrating us, and we just respond, we move from being the victim to the villain. Because now we haven't taken any time. We're being insensitive. Now we're being harsh. We're being cruel. We're being hard on them. And if we had just taken the time to understand, we may have had a different perspective about everything that's happening in their world. If you want to deal with someone appropriately, if you want to deal with someone the right way, take a moment and move from trying to put them in their place and put yourself in their place. See, it's comfortable for us to tell people what they should and shouldn't be doing. That's comfortable for us. It's comfortable for us to let people know that the way they're acting is inappropriate. That's comfortable. But it's uncomfortable for us to have to walk a day in their shoes and to have to put ourselves in their position and to have to drink the water they drink and have to go through the same pressure that they're going through. That's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for ourselves to say, you know what? Wait a minute. I too do stupid stuff. I too don't feel like doing things at times. I too can be irritated. That's uncomfortable. And so what we do, we proceed without first understanding, and we look foolish each and every time. If you're going to deal with someone appropriately, if you're going to deal with someone in a way that alleviates frustration on your side and also provides them with the room to be human, that shows them love instead of anger, that gives them grace instead of argument, if you're going to do that, you got to understand that the key to dealing with someone is understanding. Understanding is the key to dealing with someone who gets on our nerves. So how do you apply this? What do you need to do? All right, this is what I want you to do this week. This week I want you to take some time and I want you to choose the one person in your life that annoys you the most. It's probably the person that you see the most. But, all right, I'm just kidding. No, I'm serious. But, all right, but choose the one person that out of all the people that annoy you, all the people that get on your nerves, choose the one person that gets on your nerves the most. And I want you to try one thing. Just focus on one thing this week. I want you to try to understand the world through their eyes. This is what I mean. If some of you may have the privilege of talking to them to try to learn their story. Some of you may not have that privilege, so you're going to have to just do this exercise. However, the exercise is the same. You're going to take a piece of paper. I want you to write out bullet points about what you know about their lives. What you know about their childhood, what you know about their current work situation, what you know about their current family situation, what you know about what they may be experiencing or they have experienced. And here's the one major thing I want you to focus on, okay? And I want you to ask this person a question or ask yourself this question about the person. What pressures is this person under from day to day? What pressure is this person under from day to day? What are the pressures in this person's world? Do they have pressures on a job where they have a boss that's really pressing them to produce results? Do they have pressure in their family where their family is really leaning on them? Do they have pressure, in their friendship circle? What pressures are they experiencing? I want you to take some time and really answer that question for this person. Let the person answer the question. If you can talk to him, if you can't talk to him, just write it all out. And then I want you to take a moment after you sat down and understood them and put yourself under that same pressure. In your mind. You can't physically do it, but in your mind. Say, what would I act like if I had my boss breathing down my neck? What would I act like if I knew my spouse was cheating on me? How would I treat people if I knew my mom was dying? What would I do if I knew that my bills exceeded my salary? How would I act? And just take a moment to think about that this week. Now, I told you last week, you ain't going to be able to do any of these techniques unless you first take a humble attitude. It takes humility to start doing this because, after all, we want people to change, right? We don't want to look at life through another person's lenses. We want them to see life through our own lenses, right? But this week, I don't want you to do anything else but try to see the world through the person that gets on your nerves the most lens. There's a story about these two dogs. One dog lived in this house, and it was a luxury life. His family took good care of him. They loved him. They fed him on time, and they gave him baths and took him to the vet and, took him on walks. And, they took really good care of him. There was always someone there playing with him. But whenever this dog went out into the yard, he was always irritable. He was barking at everything that went by, barking at other dogs, always mad, always angry. But he had a pretty decent lifestyle. There was another dog who was a stray dog, and this stray dog could go wherever he wanted to go. He can go to different places, see the world, steal hot dogs from the hot dog man. He can do, whatever he wanted to do. But every day that this stray dog went by the other dog's fence, the stray dog always looked sad and miserable. And the dog that had the great lifestyle or, was well taken care of, he was always angry. So one day, the angry dog said to the sad dog, he said, and this is a true story. No, I'm just kidding. He said to the sad dog, he said, why are you always so sad? You have it so well. You can go wherever you want to go. You can live life on your terms. You can eat whatever you want to eat. You don't have to be taking on these long walks. You don't have to get shots. I mean, you're living a great life. Why are you always so sad? He said, what I wouldn't give to live this world on your terms. And the stray dog said, man, are you crazy? He said, man, why are you always so angry? He said, I would love to live in this big house and have all these people to play with me and get fed on time and get a bath. And I love to have a family that cared for me. And so he said, you shouldn't be so angry. I would love to live life in your world. And so the dogs, said, okay, well, we kind of look alike a little bit, kind of the same dogs. So the angry dog took off his collar, gave it to the dog who was on the outside of the fence. They hopped the fence and they switched lives, right? I'm telling you, this really happened, okay? Yeah. So they switched lives, and now the stray dog is living with the family. So the stray dog is living there for about a week, and he's getting fed on time, and he's getting baths, and the kids are playing with him, and they playing catch, and he's just having a good old time in the house, and, he got a nice little bed to lay in, and then the dog who was kept, taken care of, he's a stray dog now, so he's excited because he's out seeing the world, and he's visiting places, and he's down at Anacostia Park, and just, he's just running around, so he's having a good time. And so, he's stealing food and doing, what dogs should do, right? Well, maybe. And so, the other dog's in the house with the dog whisperer, and the dog that's outside the house now, he's out with the pound guy. And so, they're living these two different lives, and they're both excited. Now, 2 weeks go by, and things begin to change. The dog that was once a stray that lives in the inside of the house now, he tries to go outside one day to take a little walk. He's been inside all day. And the owner stopped him and said, wait a minute, hold on. You can't go outside yet. It's not walk time. He says, what you mean I can't go outside? So he says, all right, well, let me sit out. Guess I'll wait. And the owner comes and puts this leash around his neck and starts yanking him to go outside. He's like, man, what's this leash, man? I can walk on my own. And so he's getting frustrated and irritated now. And now the owner got to take him to the vet. He got to get these shots. He never had a shot before. And so he's experiencing all the pain. And now, the owner got to take him to go get a shot. And now he got to go to the groomers. And the groomers is trying to cut his hair and do all this other stuff to him. He's like, man, what's going on? This ain't what I thought it was. And then the dog outside now, he's running. Because there's this guy with this big net that's chasing him through the park. And so he's running around. He's like, man, this is for the pits, man. And so now the dog that was once inside the house was walking past the fence, and he's sad. The dog that's inside the house is in the yard, angry, frustrated, barking and stuff. And so they get to each other, and they look each other face to face, and they say, you know what? I see things a lot differently now. Now that I've had the time to live in your world, I want my life back. Here's the thing. When they begin to see things from the other person's side, their behavior didn't seem so awkward anymore. Their upset, their frustration, their sadness, it seemed a little bit more understandable now because they stepped from their lifestyles, from everything that they experienced, and they put themselves in someone else's paws. Well, we would say shoes, but you get what I'm saying. When you take the time and you stop focusing on things through your lens, and you put someone else's lens on, you begin to see that your perspective may not be the best perspective, and it's certainly not the only perspective. Take the time this week to understand the person that gets on your nerves, because understanding them is the key to dealing with them. Let's pray. God, thank you again for this time. I thank you for this message. I pray now that you would give us the understanding to understand those individuals who's been annoying us, been getting on our nerves, frustrating us. God, I pray this week that we will continue with this attitude of humility to now understand as opposed to judge, to now listen as opposed to just air our own opinions. I pray that when you do this, we'll be careful to give you the praise, honor, and glory. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.